Good afternoon, one and all, and welcome to another Sunset Safari. We are here in Kenya, in the Mara Triangle, just watching the Angama Olololo Pride, as they all are now seeking shelter in the shade from yesterday and this morning when they were seeking shelter from the rain. You're watching us. We are absolutely live, 100%, and it's Safari Live in particular. My name is Rolf Kirsten, and on the camera we've got Craig. How's it, Craig? Thanks for joining us, everybody, and don't forget to join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Send us your questions and your comments. Get involved in the largest game drive in the world. Now, we've come down the road, and this is our first sighting, and what a wonderful start to the Sunset Safari, although they are all looking a little bit tired and just getting away from the sun, but there's not much shade to be had, and from such a big group of lions, there's around 15 of them, and so there's a little bit of fighting going on for the shade. But one of the females just got up and made sort of eyes for climbing up the tree, but we're still waiting just to see what they get up to. And we might hang around here a little bit because there's been a whole lot of that going on. Lots of big yawns and looking out, seeing if there's any prey moving around. There has been quite a few piglets on our way down here, so there might be a lucky chance for us, and that's the direction that she's looking at this very moment. But it's one of those lazy lion afternoons for now, and we're just going to wait and see what happens. But in the meantime, we just keep checking their little lion behavior type things. So every now and then one of them gets up and rubs up against the other one and then plops down, and a little bit of grooming and yawning and the odd tail flick and a leg kick. And so, as you can see, there's lots of little lion cubbies in the shade there as well, but disappearing in the grass with their wonderful camouflage. So this morning was very wet and misty, and the sun has come out now, and we're probably in the mid-20s centigrade, probably mid-70s Fahrenheit, and it seems the clouds have cleared a little bit, and hopefully a lot drier. So everybody, I think that's a wonderful start. But speaking of starts, let's head you on over to Jamie, and she's got one of my favorite ground birds.
I have got the southern ground hornbill, which of course, true to form, has decided to duck away from us. No, there we go, now he's back out in the open once again. What a spectacular start. We've got Rolf with lions, and we have found one of the most endangered ground birds that you get out here. And here's the interesting thing. Just to the right of that ground hornbill is the hammerkorp nest that we've been watching the construction of over the past few weeks. How interesting is that? Now, I don't think that this ground hornbill is surveying a potential nest site, and that's because ground hornbills prefer crevices in trees rather than a nest constructed in the way that the hammerkorps have made theirs. So I don't think it's looking to, looking for a sort of squatter's rights type situation. He's just going to hop around on it and hopefully not undo any of the hard work that we've seen our hammerkorp pair put in to the construction of this particular nest. What an interesting start. The only reason I saw him here was because the waterbuck was... The only reason I found them was because the waterbuck was looking in this direction. I was quite surprised. Tom, you are very excited that we have found ground hornbill. It is always something very exciting. I must say, we do have regular sightings of these birds here in the Masai Mara. We also see them regularly on Djuma, and for our new viewers, our crew from South Africa will be joining us about an hour and a half into this live safari, so that's something for you to look forward to as well. A really, really nice, exciting start to this afternoon. It's actually not one, but two ground hornbill. There's one hiding at the back there. You can just see it. Really tricky light. It's a blazingly hot afternoon with very, very bright sunlight. But there you go, there's one over there. Now, in all of this through this dramatic start, I haven't even managed to introduce myself yet. So for all you know, I could just be a disembodied voice. I could actually, in fact, be that ground hornbill narrating this entire situation, which would be very peculiar. But stranger things have possibly happened. No sign of our hummer corpse, by the way. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Adrian is on camera with me. And our plan for the afternoon is to go and look for a pride of lions known as the Small Sausage Tree Pride, or actually more officially the Owinyo Pride. 2 lionesses, 3 cubs. We haven't seen them in weeks. So I'm hoping to brave the mushy conditions as we make our way up against the escarpment and see whether or not we can find them in the long grass. There's a reason we haven't seen them in weeks. It's because they've found their territory is in a very tricky position. I'm just going to have to move anyway. Thank you, ground hornbill. That was a nice start. We had a lovely sighting of ground hornbill this morning, doing their lovely call. That gook 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 gook. And in fact, could it be the same ones? Maybe. I think we were a little bit too far away for it to be the same pair of ground hornbill that we saw this morning. Right, well, speaking of animals we saw this morning, I can tell you that we did not see the Ololola Pride this morning. Luckily, Ralph's managed to turn that around for the afternoon.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, and well, we've started off very well indeed, as I mentioned earlier, and well, at least one of these lionesses is now set up. I think it's as a result of her being hot more than anything else. And, well, sometimes the sun does work in our favor. At least it gets them to stand up and shift position, because sometimes, otherwise, we would just be seeing them sleeping. So at least we get these fleeting moments when the shade shifts a little bit and we get to see them walk around, do a little bit of grooming, some yawning, because it's not generally that common for lions to be hunting in the heat of the day. And I think was it yesterday or the day before when we saw them up the tree. Sorry, it's all starting to merge into one. It's game drive for me. And we saw them up the tree, but they were looking quite fat. And so I don't think they would have eaten in the last day or two. So there's every chance that they might be getting a little bit more hungry, but I wouldn't suspect that they're going to be hunting anytime soon. So we'll just enjoy their behavior a little bit. Sheldon, thanks for commenting and saying that it looks like such a peaceful scene. Well, it really is. It's calmed down. Yesterday we had a very big thunderstorm and it was very windy and blustery and very wet. And so now the sun has come out. There's a slight breeze coming through. But I can tell you there's hardly a single bird calling at the moment, and it is very calm and serene at the moment. And I think everybody just enjoying, yes, I'm sure everybody enjoyed the rain, but now it's nice to just dry out a little bit. And it's nice for us too that the roads get a chance to dry out as well, and so we can access a bit more of the other areas that we can't really when it's very wet. Now, you want to know if a pride didn't have a dominant male or a territorial male around, would the females expel the adolescent males, or as they're coming into maturity? Well, that's the problem, and that's what happens on private game reserves or areas where there isn't a very good diversity of lions. The females won't generally expel them, and then you start to have inbreeding. So that's why it's very important for management of lions on private reserves or where there's not external males that can bring extra genes into the pool and chase those youngsters away. It's a natural evolved behavior of lions that it is important for that to happen. So if it doesn't happen on an isolated property, then you actually need to get involved and take those youngsters out and maybe swap them for some other animals and bring in some new genes into the pool. So naturally, that is a phenomena that happens with lions, and it is balanced with their own. And if we block that, well, then we need to continue being involved, because we can't just let the gene pool dwindle through inbreeding. But this group is expanded exponentially, with there being a lot of youngsters here now. And so in the next year or so, this is going to be a really big pride. Now, what I'm hoping is exactly what she's looking at. Up that tree, lady. Nope, she's heading up towards that little termite mound. Maybe having a look up at the animals up on the slope. There are some piggies there in the background that she's looking at, I believe. That could be a nice afternoon snack for you. Oh, yes. But a little bit far, but wonderful to watch with her directly behind her over the prey. Lovely, and she's just peeking out over the top of the grass, but that is quite a way off. So she would have to start stalking quite soon. And I don't know if she's got quite enough motivation just yet, but she does look very regal sitting on that termite mound in her very royal pose, as she should be. It's a shame for the ticks and the flies, but that's also part of the balance. Just in case this group does not work as well as they should together, those parasites will be making sure that the weak don't survive those times. It's an amazing balance of nature with all of these things. Survival of the fittest and natural selection, and those parasites are very important to keep that balance. But nice to see the little butterflies flitting in the grass all around the female lion. A wonderful little scene, this, with the grass blowing around. And you can see on the back of her ears there, she's really full of ticks. But don't worry, everybody, that is an absolutely natural occurrence, and they will drop off once they've fed on enough of her blood, and then start the cycle all over again. Lay their eggs in the grass, and the little pepper ticks will emerge and wait for a passerby, latch on and get the first phase of their life out of the way once they've fed on a little bit of blood. There, the Olololo escarpment in the background. So she's looking up towards the slopes, where a lot of the animals seem to find their place of solitude, because it's nice for them up there. It's difficult for the lions to stalk them, and especially during the day they can really relax and look out, as they've got good vantage points, and so quite difficult for the lions to sneak up to them. Now, Wendy, thanks once again for your comment. She looks like the Sphinx. Well, I'm sure they modelled it on that, because that is one of the most amazing poses. Now, this little youngster looks like he's going up the tree. Let's see how good he is at it. Is it a youngster? I wonder. It seemed like it when it approached, but yeah, it is a youngster. Tom, you hoped that they climbed a tree. Well, there you go. It was worth the wait. Now let's see if we can find a comfortable position. It doesn't look overly comfortable. I think you'd have to do a bit of better job than that, buddy. But getting a very good vantage point from up there on this lovely shepherd's tree, Boschia genus. And on the trunk where this youngster has just climbed up, you can see that this tree has been used by a multitude of different animals for all sorts of different purposes. First and foremost, I'm pretty sure that it's leaning at that angle because elephants, who are right now a lot in the area, they will throw mud on themselves and then come up to a tree like this and rub on it nicely, and getting that mud off and getting a nice scratch at the same time. And you see how it is now grown off at quite an angle. So that smoothness on the bark is from elephants rubbing themselves on it and probably pushing it over at that angle. But there's also some very fine nail claw marks as well, and they've been used, or that has been done by the lions, clawing and climbing their way up the trunk. So everyone, I think the patience is paid off. We're going to wait here a little while longer, see if any more of these lions climb up the tree, and that will make for a wonderful picture. But while we're doing that, let's head on over to Jamie and see how her search for those lions are going.
The search is painstaking and a little bit tricky, especially because what we're in now is a complete bog, which is really quite irritating. Try and rock us out. Where are we sliding? Something's not right. So this is where one of those situations where the road just disappeared out from under us. Let's just make sure the stiff lock's working. And let's try and turn us so that we can move ourselves forward. So I was about to say to you that this is probably going to be not the last, one of the last times, if I find them, that we catch up with this pride. No, come on. No, that's ridiculous. I cannot be stuck in 2 tiny centimeters of mud. Now I'm just annoyed. We're just not going forwards. We're not going backwards. Okay, cool. I'm going to get us out of this. Shouldn't take us too long. All we've got to do is just get up there. We'll send you across to Ralph and his lions, and I'll be back with you shortly.
Thanks, Jamie, and thanks for making my day. Yeah, well, we never wish any bad luck on anybody, but for me, getting stuck isn't quite bad luck. It's actually quite an adventure, and I really enjoy it. So we'll have to wait and see if Jamie can get out on her own. Otherwise, I'll have to go over there and help her. But let's see if this youngster is not going to get stuck. Because that's the trouble with lions. They do need to be a little bit careful, because I have seen some lions that have really injured themselves up trees, because they're not as adept as leopards, for instance, up a tree. And sometimes they can quite easily get up, but it's the getting down part that is a little bit of a problem. But I don't see too many booby traps in this tree per se, so he should be all right. I'm still trying to get comfortable, however, and he's in the blazing sun, so I don't know how long he'll stay there. He might shift over to the shade on the other side, who knows. But that's nice to see. We've got a little bit of action with these lions, and with them being in the sun, it's worthwhile us just hanging around a little bit, because we'll at least see them moving potentially to another tree, and if they had to, we would then leave them. Now, Francis, you want to know if the ticks ever lay their eggs on the animals? Not particularly, no, Francis. I'm sure there might be some weird and wonderful species of ticks that maybe do that, but all of the ticks that I know of and that we studied on, they've got their life cycle, which is completed once they have that second or third stage on an animal and filling them and gorging themselves with blood, and then they drop off and they will lay their eggs in the sand. And so that's why the little pepper ticks in the first stage of them is normally in quite a large nest. And you can walk through one of these, which is what Jeandre and Steph and myself did when we were on a bushwalk a little while ago. And I tell you, there were hundreds on all of us. And it was a lot of smacking with guarri branches to try and get rid of them. And Jeandre just about ran back all the way to Djuma camp to go for a shower. Silly me, I didn't go and do what Jeandre did, and I later had tick bites all over me. Steph, I think he probably came off second best, and Jeandre was the most clever of us all, running home straight away, getting in the shower, getting rid of all the clothes, because they are so minute. They're like a pinhead that you can't even see them. You sometimes just feel them, but you feel them later once they've bitten you, and then it's really like a very itchy mosquito bite. But it hangs around for a little bit longer than that. Now, Sammy Jane, you're saying that it would be quite strange to be a tick on a lion. Well, it seems that those big fat ones behind the ears, they're almost like earrings. Every time the ear flicks of this big female here, you can see these very big gorged ticks there. Look at them. They're hanging like chandeliers. And they're really full of blood. There can't be too much more that they could drink. So those will be dropping off quite soon, so don't worry about that. They'll drop off, and then they will spread another 100,000 each. So yes, it's not always such a happy ending, but as I say, the balance of parasites bring to ecosystems and wildlife maintains the survival of the fittest and natural selection, and those parasites only really start to make a difference on an animal when the resources are very low, they're struggling for food, and then obviously then they do make a real impact. But on a healthy animal like this, and in a healthy pride social grouping, there shouldn't be too much effect. And on most animals, you can find thousands of ticks. When we were studying, we had to know all of the different animals and the amount of ticks that they have on them. And we're talking, if you look at a little springbok or a Thompson's gazelle, you can, on any given day, they can be carrying up to 1,000 ticks on them. And when we go to something like a wildebeest, there could be up to 20,000 ticks on them. It is ridiculous how many they will carry. But all part of the natural process, and as I say, just helping to maintain the balance. Now that little youngster, I think, is watching one of these widow birds just flitting in the top of the branches there, just keeping his eyes on the little birdie there. Always interesting to watch the youngsters. Their attention gets drawn by all sorts of things, and when he was a little bit younger, I'm sure he would have even been chasing butterflies around. It's quite similar at the hyena den with them. The little birds flit in and out, and they also chase the little birdies. It's almost like pulling a little string for a kitty cat at home. And that's one of the reasons also why with lions, if you had to approach them or you find them on foot, you never turn your head at a lion. It is a fallacy that you should never look a lion in its eyes. You should always look a lion in its eyes, because the turning of a head is like pulling a little piece of string for a kitty cat, and it will instinctively pounce. And so we always, even backing away from a group of lions, you maintain eye contact, and you try, if there's more than one lion, you try and get some of the group, everybody looking at a different lion, and that's the way that you would retreat. But a turned head could provoke an attack. So these little rules we always look at and try and obey. I know there was an incident with somebody that in one of these rehabilitation centers, he was well versed in lions and leopard and cheetah and hand rearing them, etc. And he had a group of tigers that he brought in. I think it was they were rehabilitated from zoos or something like that. But very versed in how to feed lions and all the big cats. But here he came with the tigers. And he fed the tigers through the fence, and he himself said that he broke his eternal rule. As he fed the tigers, he then turned his head to walk away, and one of the tigers grabbed him and nearly killed him through the fence. And he said it was absolutely 100% his own fault for turning his head to walk away. That was it. And those same tigers had been with him for quite a long time. They were quite habituated, and he had never had a problem. And he was the only one that dealt with him, so they were quite comfortable with him as well. But he broke his own rule, and they instinctively attacked him because of his turned head. So it's just interesting to note that those some little subtle body language movements that we can do as humans just break the rules or provoke some behavior from animals that we would potentially, obviously, not want. Because with such a big animal like a lion or a tiger, we just need to be careful and remember those rules that we have. So, yes, everyone, I think we might still stay here a little while with these lions. But I wonder how Jamie's getting on with the little problem in the mud. That's going to be interesting. And I do have the little badge that I could take over to her a little bit later if she doesn't manage to get out. But for the time being, I think we're still going to sit here, especially with the lion up the tree and it being quite hot. It's not going to be long and there's going to be a bit of movement. So I don't want to move just yet. Nice to see them so out in the open and clear like that, and this youngster always looking around for something moving, probably really trying to see if there's any little piglets around. One little story that I have with lions, we used to look after a bush camp and training of guides and so on with myself and my wife. And one evening we had all the students in dome tents, which are adjacent to a river, but most of the year it's a dry river, so seasonal. And we didn't have fences around the camp, so we often had elephants and lions and things coming through both day and night through the camp. But it's one of the best ways to learn about the bush is to be engulfed in it. And so everybody and the students can watch the birds and the wildlife from the very relaxed position of their own little tent. So canvas dome tents, and that's where we used to sleep, 222. And one night I was in bed and I heard an almighty scream from upriver, and I immediately knew that it was one of the students. So I went running. In the middle of the night I took my strongest torch, and as I sort of got towards where the scream was coming from, I heard all sorts of scuttling in the bush near to me, and as I shone the torch around, there was a pride of lions, pretty much the same size as this, with similar dynamics, with youngsters as well. They were right inside camp, and so I shouted at them and they all immediately ran off, but then I went towards where the scream had come from, and once I got to the tent, but before arriving, I obviously shouted, and there was a lot of scattering once more of lions. And there was a girl that was sleeping in this tent, shame. And she was obviously terrified because she was in the middle of sleeping, and she woke up with something lying against her. And now we're only talking the safety of a canvas sheet, which is the canvas tent, and there was a lion lying on her, so sleeping on her, and that's why she let out this almighty scream. And so luckily I came around and dispersed the lions, but I think that the lion probably thought, why is this rock making so much noise? I think it was probably quite confused, but yes, so if you're in your tent, you are safe, but you could have an elephant brushing up against it or a lion lying on you. You just need to remember that you always need to just remain calm, and the wildlife will respect that as well. So everyone was fine in the end, and an amazing experience had by all. Now, everybody, I've just heard some fantastic news that Jamie is out of the mud, so let's go on over to her and see how much mud she actually got on her.
Not very much at all. All it needed was a little bit of thinking before I rushed straight in and made our situation worse. So what you don't obviously want to do is dig with your wheels. But what had happened was there was one small clump of mud hidden in the grass that our diff lock was stuck on. So our diff hangs down below the vehicle. It wasn't a big deal. It was very easy to get us out. It just took a little bit of seesawing. Let's put it that way. So, what I was saying before I got distracted by the prospect of getting stuck again, that doesn't count by the way, was that it's getting harder and harder to search for this particular pride, which is why this afternoon, even though I know that there's not much around this area at the moment, I really want to try and focus on them, and I really want to try and find them again. At least get an idea of how the cubs are doing before it gets to the point of being really too difficult. This is the dry season, and this is what this area looks like in the dry season. The grass in places has almost taken over the road, which makes it difficult to see muddy patches as well. Now the question is, now, what are they eating? Because I don't see anything here. So there's one of two things. One, they've moved into a different part of their territory on the other side of the main road and away from where we've always seen them. Or two, they're going up there every night. Oh, goodness me. Hold on. This could be just a moment. As long as we stay on the grass, we should be okay. Just avoid the holes. There we go. Doesn't help when you're not tall enough to see over the end of the car, you know. Even sitting on a blanket doesn't really help here. One needs to be Ralph or Brent height to get a good idea of what's actually happening on the other side. Especially because I'm driving Brent's vehicle. Oh, one thing I must tell you, cursory check of the vehicle. There's no spade in this one. Must be because the best driver ever never gets stuck in it. And there's no spade here. I'd best go and source one shortly. Are we under our gardenia tree? Seen them here before. I'm gonna have to drive right up to check because... Oh, is there a hole? Isn't there? Is there a hole or isn't there? It's a real question of faith, that one. Anybody in the shade? Nobody in the shade. Now in this long grass, and I'm just going to take us back on the path we took because at least I know there's no holes there. Steve, you want to know, let's say Adrian and I found ourselves stranded. Ralph said, nah, I'm not going to fetch her, that woman can't drive. And we were stuck out there, and Megan refused to fetch us because I'd chirped her too often. Now Steve says, if you had to walk, let's say we had to walk back to camp in grass this long, what are your chances of survival? Honestly, actually probably quite high. And the reason I say that is because your chances of bumping into something like a buffalo or a hippo, which are the two animals that are likely to kill you, are slim, really slim. But if you do, first of all, you're going to be on top of it because you actually have no way of seeing it if a buffalo's lying down, and you've got nowhere to go. You can't, even if you put distance between you and the buffalo, a buffalo covers roughly between 13 and 15 meters per second. Let's say I'm standing here. To get to those trees over there or to get into this dip here in the mud, I've got 2 legs, they've got 4. It's a tricky one. There's a very good reason why we don't do walks. One of the reasons why we don't do walks here is because it's just too dangerous. It's not worth the risk. When we walk on Djuma, it is... To say that there are no risks would be a lie, but it is actually relatively safe. Whereas to walk around here, especially, I think you could walk along the Mara River and probably be okay, because there's places you can run to. But out here, I don't think it would be a very good idea at all. I still think though that the chances of something actually happening to you are pretty slim. And the question is now, if you don't want to take something by surprise, do you make a noise as you walk? Do you chatter away? Oh goodness. What is going to be... I know that that is a hole. And I know that's where the road used to go. I think I'm just going to have to hit this with great faith and a little bit of speed as we get through here. Of course, I mentioned buffalo and hippopotamus. You don't really want to meet them in the long grass. I suppose you don't really want to meet a pride of lions either.
Yes, well, at least you'd be able to see if an elephant was coming if you were walking in the long grass. There's nowhere for them to hide, even though sometimes it comes up pretty much halfway up their body. But, yeah, there would be no hiding an elephant. So that's one that you wouldn't have to worry about. You'd be able to see him from a long way off. But this individual has got a wonderful set of tusks on him. It's very, very big. It looks like he's had them stuck in the mud. As we've seen with a few of the elephants, they do use their tusks to loosen up the soil, both for eating, which is called geophagia, as well as loosening up the soil to throw all over themselves. And this one, as well as a lot of other elephants, have been spraying themselves. There's all sorts of new ponds and pools and full of mud, and so the warthogs have all been wallowing, the elephants have been wallowing, the buffalo have been wallowing, and really enjoying the fresh mud made by the rains in the last couple of days. And you always see how they've sprayed behind their ears, especially once it starts to warm up, and then they start to flap them as well. Always a good indication of how hot it is, how much movement we've got on the elephant's ears. So this morning there was little to none, and they were quite content with the temperature earlier on, but now it has warmed up a bit, a little bit more mud bathing and water thrown behind the ears. And in the very arid areas and parts of the Namib Desert where those elephants frequent, they even have the capability of reaching back into their throat, taking water out and spraying little bits behind their ears just to keep themselves cool. They are very well adapted there to survive in extremely dry conditions. These elephants, not so well adapted. I'm sure that they would really struggle if the water had to dry up here and they had to go in search, because they're so used to having so much water around that I think they're quite blasé about it. So those desert elephants have life a little bit tougher. Now, Melissa, you want to know how far do their tusks go up their skull? Well, Melissa, we need to remember that they are modified teeth. So they do go up a little bit more than your normal teeth would, obviously, because they need that real anchor for the size of the teeth that are coming out. But they still are based in the mouth, and that's where the base of it would be. A little bit further up, as I say, just because it needs to have a really big anchor, but not really further up towards the brain. It's very interesting to see the skull of an elephant, and we obviously looked at it in terms of where is all the parts situated, and it's incredible that the brain is actually set quite far back, and in terms of the size of the skull, it's actually quite small in relation to the rest. I mean, it is still quite a big brain, and they are very intelligent. There's no questioning that. But you've got a lot of, and it's almost about a meter's worth of nasal cavity between the brain and the external parts of the skull. So there has been cases when rangers have been charged in the Kruger National Park, and people that I know personally that have shot too high at a charging elephant, obviously as a last resort to try and protect themselves, but they shot too high, and it literally just gave the elephant another nostril. because they went in search of that animal and later found that it was alive and well. Now, this one's got a little bit of a strange itch, I think. It's just scratching there between his legs. But so that's very interesting, that the actual structure of the skull and where the brain sits and all that nasal cavity in front of it. And the vet was present when they went to go and look at this elephant, and he even saw the hole in the top of the head, and you could hear when the elephant was breathing that there was a little bit of air going in and out of this hole, almost like a whale. But the elephant was absolutely fine. And they saw it a few years later. It was still fine, and it still had the hole in the top of the head. But luckily, that just turned the animal, that it didn't injure anybody in the walking procession, and the elephant was himself all right at the end of the day as well. So that was a happy ending all round. Lovely to watch such big bull elephants, especially when they're not in must, just happy-go-lucky, grazing through the fields. And as I've said many times, this is one of the best animals to approach on foot. Now, Francis, you want to know, would tusks regrow if they were chopped? Francis, what happens if they break, or if they are snapped, or for whatever reason they break off? They won't gain full length, but they will continue to grow. So if the amount of growth would still then avail itself to being external again, then you would see some more growth of the tusk. But if it had to happen, for instance, to a very old individual, you might not see any tusk then from there on out. But a youngster, if he breaks off his very little tusk after 3 or 4 years of growth, if he had to break one of his tusks there, you would see in later years he would just have one tusk shorter than the other. But they can be quite brittle sometimes. It depends on their diet. These elephants here in the Mara, in the Greater Mara Reserve and in the Mara Triangle, all seem to have immaculate tusks. So that speaks to me that they've got all the nutrients that they need in their diet, and there's no lacking of calcium. And so they've all got wonderful looking tusks. There's the odd broken one, but I think that's down to simple breakages. Proud cat mama, you'd like to know how heavy tusks are? Well, they do range, and there's a very big range. The Addo elephants, which is one of the very special parks in South Africa for the protection of the elephants of that particular area, they were hunted almost to extinction, and there was only one herd left when the conservation efforts began. And the reason for the hunting was obviously for the tusks and the very high price that it fetched. So all the hunters had hunted out all the very big tuskers. So there were none left for the gene pool. So with those elephants, they have very small tusks, and some almost none at all. So those can range from about 1 kilogram in a fully grown adult bull. Only some of them have started to get a little bit of tusks, but that can be the bottom end of the range. And then the large tuskers that there are still a few walking around the Kruger National Park. Their tusks can go over to 100 kilograms a single tusk. But you must imagine how heavy that is for the animal to walk around with almost 200 kilograms. That's nearly 500 pounds of pure weight, carrying that around with your heavy head. There's actually notes or diaries from old explorers that went through the Kruger National Park area that saw these massive tuskers actually being helped by some of the females to keep their head up. And they would also put their tusks down on the ground and literally sleep like that, because imagine the every day the weight of carrying that around. It obviously made their neck very strong in the end, but in general I think it must have made them really tired. Right, everybody, I think I'm going to head up and head towards the airstrip. But while we do that, let's head you on over to Jamie and see how her lion search is going.
excuse me. It's going that well. I had to change my route and go back on myself just to get back here onto the main road, because unfortunately it was a little bit muddy, that crossing. Would I have risked it if I were following the lions and I was about to lose them? Maybe. But was it worth the risk? Not really. Really not in my plans for the day to get stuck. So I'm going to try one more road that leads up in that direction. If it's too boggy, all I'm going to do is damage the road, and there's no point to doing that. So we might have to give up our search for the Owinyo, or the small sausage tree pride. There was a bit of confusion with this pride. In terms of what exactly they were called, which brings us to the answer to, is it Melinda's question, Megs, or Olinda? Melinda. Now, Melinda wants to know if we give all of our animals names. No. And a lot of the time it's not us who have given them names at all. So the animals obviously don't care what they're called, but research groups and guides, as a general rule, will end up naming certain animals. In the case of lions, it's usually males. It's usually prides, and only the males that get the individual names. Only males that are referred to individually, because prides you can get as many as, in the case of the Olololos, as 17 lions. And it becomes very confusing and difficult, whereas the males in coalitions of 3, 2, 3s, 4s, much easier to identify. So where the lion prides are concerned, we didn't give any prides or coalitions any names at all. That came from the guides themselves, and we took what we could from them. Unfortunately, because this is a massive area, there were different names for different prides. Angamas or Lololos, for example, we call them by different names. The sausage tree pride was a bit confusing because we had different information. Everybody said that this entire area was the sausage tree pride, but then we were clearly seeing a split between a larger group and a small group of 2 females. This is the first animal I've seen all day, so I better show it to you. Well, the first big mammal I've seen on this drive, even if it is half a kilometer away. We'll have a look at the Topi. So that's where the confusion came up with the sausage tree pride. And what it turns out is it's most likely a split. We're not sure where the 2 females split from the bigger group. And the guides are calling them the Owinyo pride. They've given them different names, but let's go with the Owinyo pride. It does get very confusing. The Topi is busy looking out for any potential predators. Topis, for our new viewers, a type of antelope that often stands on a termite mound. In fact, I would say it would be almost impossible to return from a holiday to the Mara on safari without a picture of a Topi on a termite mound. And you can imagine how in the long grass this would be very helpful. I don't know how many of you have watched Ghost in the Darkness, which is the story of the man-eaters in Savo, which, while not shot anywhere near or filmed anywhere near Savo, a large portion of it was filmed in South Africa. The idea of the lion slinking through the long grass, I think, is a very primitive one, a terror unseen. So for a Topi, who is far more likely to be on their menu than us, it pays to be on a termite mound. Then at least you can see what's coming for you, and how many of them there are. It is, however, blisteringly hot, so I don't think that any lions are going to be stalking about yet, which does make the search for the sausage tree pride or the Owinyo pride very difficult. They could also be down here. Either they're going up into the escarpment out of the park and then back down in the mornings, or they're down here towards the Mara River, because there's nothing that I could see for them to eat where I was. One of those unfortunate things. For the Paradise Pride, where their territory is, they will always have food all year round. Might be easier during the migration. But just look at this lone Topi in the center of the Owinyo Pride's territory, because I don't see anything else. Not a buffalo, not a zebra, maybe a warthog. I wouldn't even be able to see one. Now imagine trying to feed your little ones If you're a lion, it's a very tricky thing. But unfortunately, I don't think I'm brave enough. I just saw what the road looks like that I was going to take. It doesn't look drivable. Well, it is drivable. It's just at what cost? Unfortunately, we can't read anything into this Topi's behavior. It's not standing seriously focused. It's not staring. He's not really giving us any clues. It's just standing there. That's what it's doing with its afternoon. And you can, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a serious heat haze as well. While it doesn't heat up quite as much as it does on Djuma. Today must be, I don't know, close to 30 degrees centigrade. That's pretty warm. Okay, maybe what we'll do is we'll come back along this road. As it gets cooler, maybe we'll get lucky with that pride. I'm really struggling with the large mammals this afternoon. Fortunately, Rolf has had far more luck and I think chose a better route. Let's go and join him and another largest of the large.
Yeah, the largest of the large, and I've just repositioned and come quite a bit closer to this lovely bull elephant with the big tusks. Seeing as we were talking about him, I thought we'd come and get a closer look. Now, I did leave those lions a little bit earlier just because I think they're still going to be there on our way back. So I thought we'd get out there and see what else we can find. And this bull elephant just presenting himself so well for us. Natural, you want to know, do tusks grow faster than normal teeth? Well, they grow slightly differently because obviously they're like in sizes. So not like your molars, which are obviously there for grinding up the food. These are more like in sizes, and so they grow out where incisors would normally be. But yes, so they grow quite a lot faster because they're extending out and they're not literally going for a big broad base. But so yes, I would say that definitely growing quite a lot faster, and there is a lot of energy put into the tusks from the body, and it's really down to a useful tool, both in accessing food and soil or nutrients, as well as defending themselves and fighting with each other. So a multitude of uses, but wonderful to see it a little bit closer as he's going about his daily business. Now, John, you want to know, are captive bred elephants ever successfully reintroduced back into the wild? John, as far as I know, they do find it difficult because of the social nature of the wild elephants. Yes, obviously all the elephants are born with that capability, but it's quite like somebody that, for instance, had to be born in a jail. That person would be quite institutionalized, or if let's look at rather somebody that has been in jail for 10 years. And then you release him, or her, whichever one it is, and you do find that that person has a difficulty in reintegrating into society because of the differences in the two different places. So you can find this kind of difficulty with elephants as well, and that's why if they do try an attempt to reintroduce them to the wild, they would need to do it in a group or with an established herd that they can all stay in that group when they reintroduce them. Now, I've seen quite a few different groups of elephants that were orphans and been to rehabilitation centers and then reintroduced. I don't have personal experience with hand-reared elephants being introduced into the wild, but the ones even that were wild as babies, and for whatever reason they were orphaned, and then they get put into these rehabilitation centers, which some are really wonderful with the animals, and then reintroduced into the wild. Initially there is a little bit of problems between the herds, but over the years it does settle down, and they do relax, and they form part of the wild units as well. It also depends on how stable the groups are that are wild, where the institutionalized group, should I say, is reintroduced. So there's all sorts of angles there, and it's because these animals are so intelligent that obviously if they do have issues, it's quite a difficult thing for them to get through, and it's normally gotten through by being in a group that are all in a similar situation, and then you then place those groups who are settled within another settled group. Especially if you have nice big dominant bulls, they also help to settle the group. I know a very famous story that happened in the Pilanesberg National Park of South Africa, where they reintroduced elephants there, and they only had young bulls. And they obviously thought, okay, well, they'll grow into big bulls and it will become settled in the long term. But the problem they had was these young bulls were so unruly, they even started to kill black rhino, because there was no dominant or father figure within the group of elephants. And so this went on for a few years, and a lot of people were looking at all sorts of techniques or ways that they could calm these young bulls down. And the head ranger of the Kruger National Park, or one of the older experienced rangers there, suggested that they bring in a couple of dominant fully grown adult bulls from the Kruger, which is what they did, and it was immediate, the settled nature of these young bulls. There was almost immediately a father figure, and that just calmed them straight away, and there was no more killing of black rhinos, and just from the mere presence of having some older bulls around, these youngsters calmed down and basically stood in line. So the big bulls just put them in their place, and that was that. So that's where it's important to remember that there is a whole balance, especially with intelligent animals like elephants, and we need to respect that. When we do change things as humans, we need to obviously try and reconnect with the balance that these animals have. So it's always difficult when we as humans do get involved. We often have knock-on effects like that. Another story that I have told, but for any of the new viewers, it's a lovely story to hear. Just while Jamie's driving up there towards the escarpment, I'll tell you another little story where there's a private game reserve in the Eastern Cape that they had also an orphaned group of elephants, but there were some adult females that they introduced onto their reserve. And so there was a little bit of difference in their balance and their dynamic. Then they also introduced some older bulls, etc. And then they settled down over a couple of years, and there was all the mating and normal goings on. But one of the females that was covered by one of the big bulls was a very young teenager, and she was probably too young to have a baby. Nonetheless, she had the baby, and she was probably about 16 or 17 years of age, and that's quite young for an elephant to have a baby. Anyway, she had it, but from the start, it was very evident that she didn't have the experience or the knowledge to be able to look after the baby. And in the first weeks, it became very evident that she wasn't comfortable with nursing the little calf, and the calf wasn't suckling properly, and it just wasn't working. And so obviously the calf was losing condition very fast, and there was a big hoo-ha as to how we're going to solve this problem. Nearly get stung by a wasp, but so they watched this calf deteriorating, and they obviously put their heads together and they said, what are we going to do about it? Anyway, while they were thinking about it as management, the elephants took charge themselves, and the matriarch, she literally started to lactate lactate. It was incredible because obviously with the stress of this little youngster not suckling from the mother, the matriarch was very much involved with this female, and because of that she started to lactate. So she was trying to be the mother for this youngster. She started to lactate, and the little baby latched onto the matriarch. Now that for me is amazing, and she continued to suckle this youngster with this very young female keeping very close to her at all times. This went on for almost a year, and eventually the matriarch who had mothered this youngster and obviously taught the teenage mother how to carry on with things, and eventually the real mother took the baby back, and the matriarch then left them a little bit on their own, and it was a complete success story. The baby has now reached adulthood, so that was a very real success story. And how amazing are elephants that they are even able to mother another's young. So I just think that that's fantastic. Alright everybody, this has been a very nice little sighting and a couple of lovely little stories, but I'm going to start up and move towards the airstrip, and we're going to head you on over to Jamie and see how that continuous lion search is going.
Well, I found some elephants, or at least I found an elephant, which I could not be more excited about. What an amazing story that Rolf just shared with you. I've never seen that, nor have I ever heard of it happening, which just goes to show that there is so much that we don't fully know or understand about these amazing animals that we live amongst. That is a really special story. Right, let us find a way to get to an elephant, just because I'm so excited. It's the first really big mammal I've seen. Not that I'm dismissing the Topi. Bear, now you want to know if I've ever seen elephants mourning their dead, or any of us have ever seen elephants mourning their dead. I've seen a female mourning a calf, a calf that didn't make it, and it is utterly heartbreaking, and there's no doubt in my mind that that emotion is grief. And there's a lot of people that will talk about the fact that you shouldn't anthropomorphize animals, you shouldn't put human emotions onto them. I don't see why not. Just because they're animals doesn't mean they don't. Obviously there is a limit, and the limit comes when you start to demonize animals and judge them based on what they've done, because you're judging them by human standards, like for example hyenas killing a cub, or male lions killing cubs, or whatever the case may be. But I don't see why we should completely blinker ourselves to saying, no, animals don't feel anything. So yes, I've seen elephants mourning. Do I think that they go back and regularly visit the site where an elephant has died? No, I don't believe that. I think they often come upon carcasses of elephants and their natural curiosity kicks in. Whether or not they know that that was a member of their species once upon a time, yes, if it's a fresh carcass, I think they probably do. It's difficult for us to know or project feelings onto them, but I believe. Yes, we're talking about you. Oh, I was not given the best reception there. Head straight up and looking down its nose at me. And quite a substantial nose it is too. Hello. I'm sorry to interrupt your meal. You're a young male, all on your lonesome. That's why you're a little bit nervy. It's okay, boy. It's okay. Yes. Here we go. Yes, you lean up against that tree. It'll protect you. It's all right. Silly boy. Finish eating your torchwood seeds. There we go. And back to normal again. And elephants, of course, don't have graveyards. That story of elephant graveyards, they go somewhere to die, that absolutely is not the case. They go to a place where the food is soft, because you've been talking about tusks and teeth with Ralph. Of course, they get to their final set of teeth, it wears down, and an old elephant then starts to lose condition and goes where the food is soft, so they die around water areas, and then rivers flood and they deposit bones. And that's probably where the story of elephant graveyards come from. I have also seen elephants walk up and investigate a carcass before. And not necessarily an elephant carcass. When I say that, I mean I've seen them walk up to dead buffalo before. I've seen them walk up to dead hippo before. And on one quite heartbreaking occasion, I saw elephants walk up to a poached rhino. Now, it's impossible to project thoughts onto them. I don't know what they were thinking. I think probably they came to investigate this because of the smell, make sure that there were no predators around. Elephants do love a good predator chase when they can. He's playing hide and seek with us. I think that's the more likely explanation. Look at what we experienced with Malika and those buffalo when they went to chase Malika and they tossed that impala carcass up into the air. I guess that was because they thought it was a cheetah. They thought they were getting hold of a predator rather than throwing a dead impala up into the air. But it was either way, it was the most magnificent display of strength. You also read stories of elephants saving animals' lives. I've heard a story of one of them chasing hyenas away from a baby hippo while the mother recovered from the birthing process. It was obviously a difficult labor for her. Why did they do that? I don't know. Probably simply because that's their instinct when confronted with predators. Let's go forward a bit, get his face outside of that bush since he's not being obliging. I would suspect that that has nothing to do with any kind of altruistic feeling. And I'm so sorry, I missed the name completely. It sounded like Coast Cider. I'm not sure if I got that right. Coast Cider. Coast Cider would like to know, do I think the elephant can hear me right now? Yes, of course I do. I absolutely think that the elephant can hear me. The elephant is well aware of my presence right now. Now he's nice and relaxed. So absolutely he can hear me. Can he understand me? No. The reason that there's a twofold reason I talk to animals. One is with elephants, they can recognize tone. They're intelligent enough. And I think that applies for most animals, but especially elephants. They recognize, oh, you big sook. Oh, yes, okay. We're moving on to the next tree now. But you were being so obliging a second ago. So they recognize tone. That's why if you speak in a loud voice, if you speak in a high-pitched scream, they get a fright and they either move away or towards you, neither of which you want. So I have definitely calmed down situations with upset elephants, not because of what I'm saying, but because of how I'm saying it, and conveying in a very animal way, because they talk to each other just like we do, in a very animal way that I don't mean them any harm. Or, in cases where I've changed my tone to get them to back away from me. The other reason that I talk to animals, and I have been roundly criticized by certain individuals, and it doesn't bother me too much because I spend my life out here. The other reason I talk to animals is to retain that childlike part of me that worshipped animals. And obviously in the work that we do, we see some very sad things, we see some very raw, heartbreaking scenes, and it's important, I think, to retain our attachment to these animals. I think that way anyway. It's for me, not for them. It does not make any difference in their lives most of the time. It's not about anthropomorphizing them or expecting them to understand. It's just part of my interaction with this world that I live in every single day. That's why I talk to animals. There's a very pretty starling sitting on top of the tree, and since it is a quiet afternoon, I think we should have a look at that as well. Because it's giving us a really beautiful view in this afternoon sunlight of the glistening blue of its colors. Did it just fly away? No. Wait. Oh, sorry, Adrian, wrong tree. Tree to the right. Tree that the Ellie was feeding under. There we go. Talking away merrily to itself. Have a look at that blue sheen around its feathers. All of that is created by the reflection of light, the breaking down of light waves to reflect only those metallic blue colors back towards us. It's a lovely thing. And animals like this. And when you see them on a cold, cloudy day, they are nondescript birds. They just sort of look matte. I don't know, you wouldn't quite call it black, but a very, very dark blue, and very unimpressive birds if you don't know about what they look like when the sun strikes them at exactly the right angle. Highly unappreciated birds, I think. We drive past them all the time. We're so used to them. And they are actually quite intelligent birds as well. And they come in different forms, from the sort of the blue starlings, the Cape glossy starling, the greater blue-eared, the lesser blue-eared starlings, and then some of the larger species, not including this one, the Rupel starling out here. And then you get the slightly more interesting starlings as well, or interesting in a different way, wattled starlings, red-winged starlings. Oh, big stretch there, easing out the feathers, having a jolly good groom. We're so lucky to have the variety of birds that we do. Who needs diamonds and jewels and all those sorts of things when you can go hunting for these special things? Speaking of which, I actually had an idea, seeing as it's a quiet afternoon on my side of the Mara Triangle. I actually thought we might go and see whether or not that crowned crane nest that we saw being built a few drives ago is still in progress. Because imagine if we could watch a crowned crane nest from construction to the chicks growing up and fledging. We very seldom have that opportunity. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bumble along on my mission to see if I can find the crowned crane nest. Very restricted at the moment as to where we can go, trying to avoid the muddy roads and avoid damaging them. I imagine that that's something on Rolf's mind as well. Let's see if he's managed to avoid the muddier patches.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, and well, we're staying on the main roads for now, but I am in search of that marsh breakaway pride. So we're coming around this area with the Chitwa airstrip, and then we're going to take a little route up the very big lugger that they're often found next to. And we were speaking of stories of elephants and so on. Another story that I do have, just a small one while we're driving along here looking for the lions. I used to work with a non-government organization or a charity in Namibia, which was helping with the human elephant conflict that they have in some of the desert areas of Namibia, because these there are some small villages and it's obviously difficult for them to get water, so they have windmills and they pump it into a small tank and they make their little vegetable patch around that as well. And obviously the conflict comes with elephants, because now you've got this water that's brought to the surface, and so the elephants are after a lot of water, and while they're there, there's a lovely vegetable garden, so they break down the water tank and to access it, as well as eat all the vegetables. Anyway, so they bring volunteers in which build protection walls around these water points for the villagers in the first week, and in the second week they go out and find the elephants, follow them, and obviously then gather data, etc., for research. So I was working with them, particularly with following the elephants, and I was one of their trackers. But the owner of the director of the non-government organization, he had two lovely big ridgeback dogs, Rhodesian ridgebacks, and they used to go with him everywhere. And so they were quite used to being around elephants and so on. But the one night, he used to sleep on the back of his pickup with his dogs. And the one night, they both jumped off in the middle of the night and ran off into the thickets, and in the morning had returned very sheepishly. So, and I'm just going to stop here with these buffaloes, because this is actually very nice to be right in the mix of them. So I'll just finish my story while we are watching buffalo, not elephants, but so these two very big Rhodesian ridgebacks returned very sheepishly in the morning, and we got up thinking that we'd go and see what had happened, and we trailed the dogs And it seemed that they had found a herd of elephants, and that's why they jumped off the vehicle in the middle of the night. But they got too close to the elephants, and one of them actually rolled one of the dogs numerous times through the sand, probably very lucky to get away with his life. But ever since that day, both those dogs, sitting in the back of the pickup or in the game drive vehicle when we used to take the students or the volunteers to go and watch the elephants, every time there were any elephants nearby, both of those dogs would look in the opposite direction. No matter how close the elephants came, they would not look in their direction, they would look away, almost as if they were remembering that night of being rolled by those elephants and not willing to look at them. So that was just one nice little story that I had for you. But these buffalo are quite happy here in the heat of the day, sitting out in the sun. There's a few of them doing their normal ruminating, but you can see this one flexing his nose, trying to sniff out exactly what we are. Lovely with the egrets running in between and looking for their afternoon snack as well. And they're probably quite irritated that the buffalo aren't moving that much. So you'll see them sort of hop between different buffalo, ones that are moving around, because there's not much use looking for food next to a stationary buffalo, because he's not chasing any of the insects out of the grass. So they're almost like, come on then. And you see how they sway their neck from side to side when they're about to pounce on an unsuspecting little insect. I think that it's almost like a chameleon, where they're imitating a blade of grass and trying to be camouflaged, because obviously they must stand out with their very white bodies. It's quite contrasting, but by swaying the neck, maybe that makes them a little bit less conspicuous. Herons do it as well. Oh, well, I think I'm going to start up and continue the search for this marsh breakaway pride. Let's head you on over to Jamie with a lovely newcomer to the world.
I think it is actually a very new newcomer to the world. Behind this lovely female impala is a slightly tottery impala lamb, and what a special surprise. Oh my goodness, we must have missed this one's birth by a couple of hours. Looking at the way it's wobbly on those long, spindly legs. When I came upon it, Mum was actually still busy grooming it like she is now. And that you'll very seldom see the mothers do once the babies are up on their feet and sort of going about their day-to-day business. So this is a brand new impala lamb. How exciting is that? A couple of hours old, I would say. I'm not sure exactly how old. They, like all baby animals that are a potential meal for something out here, they are quick to get up on their feet. Yes, welcome, little one. Careful now. Overbalancing slightly, going forward. Yep, there we go. Oh, almost. Little wobble. Oh, you are too sweet. Now, we've stopped really far away from them in order to avoid spooking them and just get them used to the idea of our presence. This is so gorgeous. But I think now that they know that we're here, I'm going to try it. You can see how far away we are. I'm actually going to try and sneak up a little bit closer. But what a fantastic find this is. Tiny spindly creature taking its first few steps right in the middle of the hottest time of the day. Well done, Mum. Good planning. Not that, of course, she had much choice in it, but this time of day is the best time of day. It gives the baby time to find its feet. Start the engine, let it run a little bit. Time to find its feet before the predators, or the large amount of predators that move about at night, get going. Hello, Mum. Just going to get a bit of momentum for this hill. Now, sometimes engine on is actually not a bad thing because the animals are so used to the sound of the engine. But sometimes idling or just coasting one's way down is not a bad way of doing things. She's watching us. Oh, we've lost momentum. We'll get there. It might just be by tomorrow morning. Okay, well, let's stop here for a bit. Give her time to get used to us. Hi. You are very small. Now, during this whole process, yeah, I think Mum's already groomed away most of it. So this is a little lamb that's been in the world a fair few hours. Mum's managed to clean herself up. She's got rid of most of the residue that would be on the little one, and she's probably eaten the placenta as well, which is a standard approach by most animals. It does do a little bit in terms of helping them regain some of the resources they've lost, but mostly it's just a way of helping to hide the scent. So they don't really regain all that much. There we go. You're already learning to do little hops and skips. Sniffing. Oh! What was that? What was that? Was that a blade of grass that went up your nose? Yes, that's going to happen to you a lot, I imagine, at your size. You're pretty much grass-sized. Hold on, Mum. Dancers, you say you can't believe how tiny it is. It really is so... Well, I mean, then you think about it. Yes, it looks so tiny, but then look at the length of its legs. And then imagine how it must have been folded up like a puzzle piece in order to fit inside Mum. Because she's still got to be able to run and jump and escape from predators. So yes, it is tiny, but those legs, those ridiculously long legs, tiny, spindly little things. Oh, don't panic. There you go. Now you've got to suckle. Now, Sankus, you say a very cautious mother too. She is. She's giving us, well, she's watching us, and I don't blame her. You know, typically if you're out in an open area with a brand new mother and she's used to seeing vehicles, she's in the open, she's got the rest of her herd with her, and she feels more secure, and we can often get quite close to new mothers. But my impression is we'll have to take this one slowly. Obviously, the last thing on earth I want to do is... Oh, there's a Franklin. Hey, you stay away from my baby, even if you are a bird. How protective was that? What is that? First living thing apart from us and its mother that this baby's just seen is a Franklin. Mom's still making sure it doesn't get too close to her precious little bundle. Aww. Well, that's a first for me. I've never seen a mother chase away a Franklin from her newborn baby. That was special. Oh, look at it skipping. Oh, we are so fortunate. Remember, folks, for those new viewers joining us, this is completely 100% live. You're watching the first tentative hops of a baby impala shortly after its mum has given birth. Once she starts to move away from there, we'll be able to see where she gave birth, see if there's any sign of that whole birthing process. Wait for me, Mum. Franklin. Hey. I think Mum's decided it's probably not a threat. Oh, there we go. Duck, duck, duck. Trot, trot, trot. As our brand new impala lamb goes wandering off with Mum to disappearing bottoms. We'll be back with it shortly, but let's get across it to Ralph, whose buffalo are taking shelter from the blazing sun.
Thanks, Jamie. And yes, it's not only the buffalo that we are watching. We're looking at these oxpeckers, which looks like here there's an entire family of them, because remember that oxpeckers are cooperative breeders. So normally it's siblings and with one alpha male and female. But look at that. They're doing a little dust bathing while they're picking for parasites themselves, they're trying to get parasites off themselves as well, because they do get fleas and mites and all sorts, and it's also as a result of them having excess oil from their preen gland. So that's one of the ways that they maintain their feathers, doing dust bathing. And it's lovely to see them all here. Look at that one on the nose of that buffalo lying down. Oh, there, it's just hopped off onto the ground. But wonderful to be in the midst of a very big herd of buffalo here, and they seem to have calmed down a little bit with our presence. Every now and then they just get a little bit of a whiff of our smell, and that's obviously what they react to the most. And so it's quite nice to see. But now, Francis, you want to know if buffalo make a lot of noise. Francis, I'm not going to imitate a buffalo right now, because I'm sure you might have noticed when I do imitations of animals when I'm in close proximity, I very often have quite an adverse reaction because they're reacting exactly to that noise. But yes, they do make quite a lot of noise. There's lots of snorting and grunting, and then they do have a cow-like. I'm doing it very softly just so that I don't disturb them, because we are quite close to them. But if we listen carefully, every now and then you are going to hear a it's quite a cow-like almost moo, but it sounds a lot I don't know, scarier, if I can say that. It's almost like if you've seen The Lord of the Rings, the noise that the orcs make. It's that. That's almost the sound that the buffalo make. And we were watching intently as this bull, he rolled around in the mud, completely covering himself. You can see there from head to foot. He stuck his horns in the mud and launched it into the air. And then he climbed out and went over to this female and almost was like, come on, it's your turn. And so she has now gone and lain in the big pool of mud, but it seems she's taken it all up for herself. And so it's almost like he's maybe courting her, and that's his way of offering her the mud pool. If you are trying to seduce somebody in the buffalo world, maybe the first prize is the best mud wallow. So I think he's maybe made a good decision there. Now, John, you want to know, why do some of the buffalo have straight horns and why are some of them curled? Well, as soon as they get to adulthood, or as they start going towards adulthood, they curl inwards like that. So generally, all the curled horned buffalo are fully grown adults, and then the youngsters, theirs are growing out to the side because they haven't curled in yet. But you do have some strange growing buffalo horns sometimes. There we go. There's a youngster. So you can see also he's a lot more fluffy and got more hair than the older ones. And those are just straight. So those will grow outwards and eventually curl inwards as well. But it's the youngsters that have the straight ones and the adults with the curled ones. Now, I don't know if you can hear, but we are really hearing a lot of the yellow-billed oxpeckers with the chew, chew. Let's listen for it. So that's all the oxpeckers. No noise from the buffalo for now. But that's the kind of noise that we would be looking for. For instance, if you're walking around in Djuma, the first giveaway of there being buffalo in the area is normally the call of the yellow-billed oxpecker with that simple chew. So we need to recognize it and then know that there are potentially buffalo just around the next corner or behind the next tree. Right, this has been an absolutely wonderful little sighting, but I think we're going to start up now and continue our search for those marsh breakaways. What do you think? Okay, so while we continue that search and we head on down towards that lugger, let's head you on over to Jamie with the only animal, I think, that has a metatarsal gland.
It does have a very specific gland. It has the specific metacarpal glands that sit behind the back of the back leg. Now I'm just waiting. I'm giving this female plenty of space. There's 2 vehicles that need to come past. One has already passed her. She's very relaxed around the vehicle. She's just moved off the road. I'm just waiting for the second one to come past so that she doesn't feel trapped between us. Her baby's there. It's tucked up behind her. So we will make our way, we'll edge our way closer, because I've just seen how she's responded to these vehicles, and she's perfectly relaxed. I just don't want both of us to come in with our engines running at the same time. There she goes. She's going to wander a bit deeper into the grass. It's going to be tricky for us to get another view of the newborn, but just hold on. Oh, there she goes. She's running. She's actually running now. That's what I wanted to avoid doing. Oh, and there's a kukul. White-browed kukul. There, she's going to come out there. Off to the right. Okay, let's try for one last view. Obviously, the last thing I want to do is stress out a new baby with its mum. So hold on one sec. Let's see if we can manage it. Mambo. Oh dear, into the grass. Where's your herd, Mum? Might be nice to stay with her until she makes her way back to the rest of the herd. Can you see them? Oh, you can see her. Yes, you can see Mum. If we could figure out where her herd is, that might be quite special. Watch her lead the little one towards the herd, but now how do we do that? Because I can't see anybody around here. You can see she's reaching back to groom herself. Her baby will be in there somewhere. In that long grass. There it is. It's at the back. I can just see its little ears. Next to Mum there. It's at her front. Tiny, tiny ears. Remember I said it was grass-sized? It's less than grass-sized. just the teensiest flick of the ear hidden behind the various grass species out here. Most of which, of course, is the red grass, or the red oat grass. Okay. Now, of course, a new mum like this has got to be on alert for all sorts of predators, the large ones being a concern, but some of the tiny ones might be a threat as well.
Yes, everybody, I would just like to say a very big welcome to any of the viewers that are just joining us now. You are watching Safari Live, and we're coming to you from Kenya, and in the Mara Triangle, to be specific, in the Greater Mara Reserve, just 1 degree south of the equator, and we are very privileged to be in the presence of a little family of jackals, and they just seem to be happily foraging through the plains towards the Mara River, which is the thicket that you can see in the back line there, that then extends onto the Mara River. So these little guys that unfortunately are a little bit far away from us, but we're not allowed to go there because it's black cotton soils, not very well drained, and so if we had to drive there we would make very big scars in the earth, if not get stuck, and so we don't want that. So we'll just stay here. Luckily we have a very good zoom and we can see what they're up to. Now, we've had a very good start to the afternoon. We've seen the Angama Olololo pride of lions, and 1 or 2 of them climbing up a shepherd's tree, but I've left them because I think that they'll probably be in the same position when we return later on in the show, so don't go anywhere. If you haven't seen any lions for a while, I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to show you some before the end of the drive. But now we're looking at some smaller predators, and they are all moving through, probably all trying to track down some rodents and maybe even lizards and all sorts. But that's small predators on the move. Now, Lily, thanks for watching and thanks for commenting as well, that you're very happy that we've been able to find the jackals. Well, and it's nice to see them moving around during the day as well. It's been very wet for the last few days, pouring rain each evening, last 2 evenings, and this morning was incredibly misty. So I think not only us being a little bit tired of being so wet, the animals are as well. And that's why I think there's a few of the predators out and about just enjoying being dry for a change. And maybe the last few days has been a little bit difficult for them to get any food because of all the rain. So maybe they're quite hungry. And that's maybe the result is what we're seeing here. It's quite early for the jackals to be out, but different areas do make for different behavior. I haven't seen jackals out here this early, and I think it must be down to the rain. Now, first lady, you want to know if a jackal is related to a fox? Yes, they are part of the canid family. So the cheetah and the leopard and the lion, obviously part of the cat family. The hyenas, they're all on their own in Hyenidae, but jackals are part of the Canidae family. So the dog animals, so your wild dogs, your foxes, your jackals, they're all part of that same Canidae family. So they are related. And that one looks like he's just got himself something. Happily munching away. You see why they call it the black-backed jackal. And we also get the side-striped jackal. He's got a slightly different call as well. These black-backed jackals, they do a ho, ha, ha, ha kind of call, and it's one of those real calls that I love hearing. It's lion, hyena, and jackal. They are really lovely to listen to in the evenings, but a side-striped jackal has got more of a, he almost sounds like a clip springer, which is more like a ew, ew. So a very different call to that of the black-backed jackal, but they're very closely related. And there we can just see their ears poking above the ground, a little bit similar to that of the bat-eared fox, which is also related. Vincent, you want to know what is the biggest threat to jackal pups? Well, Vincent, it's normally other predators. So it can be caracal, it can be leopard, even lions, hyenas, all of the big predators. As soon as they see competition, and which normally comes from other predators, those are the ones that they would not take kindly to. So lions will kill hyena cubs, they'll kill leopard cubs, and they'll kill any of the other big predator cubs. They'll also kill jackal pups, and bat-eared foxes. They'll kill any of those if they come close to them and they find a den site or anything like that. They will kill them. The one good thing on the side of the jackals is they're quite fast and quite quick off the mark, so they can defend themselves in that way. They obviously wouldn't defend themselves aggressively. But I almost have the feeling that they also do look a little bit similar to the honey badger. So quite the same kind of tactic as the cheetah cubs. And you can see they've split up there. This is more than likely a family unit, because you get monogamous pairs in jackals, and they are quite territorial. So, well, that one's after something. Looks like he's got something. It's a shame we can't see exactly what he's got, but I've spent many days watching jackals hunting birds and next to a waterhole in Etosha, and there's very big calcrete rocks there, and they go and hide behind them and wait for the doves to come down and drink, and then it's some real spectacular hunting. So while we sit here and try and find out what exactly this jackal is trying to dig at and get to, let's head you on down south to South Africa. And Steve, I think, let's find out what his plan is for the day.
Good afternoon and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined by VM, the wildebeest on camera, and it is a glorious afternoon in the Sabi Sands. We have had a very nice overcast morning, and the sun is now only just coming out. And on our way out this afternoon, we were contacted on the radio that someone has found the little prince. So, of course, We had the objective of trying to find him. We went down to where James had him this last position this morning, but of course he has moved because the temperatures are quite cool today, and he has moved up towards sort of the area where Tundi has been keeping a cub. So we're not far now. We're going to be moving into the position right now, so please join us while we go see my man Hosana. So on temperature days when it's cooler, you can expect leopards to move, especially if they're hungry or thirsty. And we are now right in the middle of Djuma on a small road called Pangolin. If you were with us yesterday, we had Tundi tracks on this road where she'd actually defecated right over there. Good afternoon, folks from Djuma. There he is. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. What a beautiful cat. He's just going to walk straight past the tracker there. Give him a little look. Not bothered though. This is definitely my favorite leopard at the moment. Ooh, he got a little thorn in the face. And he's going to sit in the shade. As I said, folks, the sunlight is just starting to come out. It's time for us to apply some sun cream. And he's doing his classic normal preening, grooming behavior. He's had a little drink in the mud there. And now he's in the shade. What a beautiful boy. I don't think I've seen him for about a week. Yes, I'm also very excited to see the handsome prince. It must be over a week now since I saw him with Dave when we were down at Chitwa, and we got him on a rover down by Chitwa Dam, and he's now come all the way back up north. Wonderful stuff. So apparently Tundi was here as well earlier. The vehicle from Djuma that's with us now was telling me that they saw both of them, and VM was saying that Hosana seems to think that Tundi is kind of like his mother. So it is quite strange behavior to see leopards hanging out together like that, but he seems to really enjoy the company of other leopards. But folks, we're going to stay here with the little prince for just a while longer, and while we do that, we're going to go across to Mr. James Henry, who wants to say hello.
A gorgeous Sunday surprise for you all, everyone. Isn't that lovely? An enormous pile of lion poo. Hello, my name's James Henry. On camera today we have got Sebastian. There is his thumb. 36 days and weeks and almost 3 days old it is today. Same thumb he was born with, can you believe it? We're sitting here at Buffelshoek Dam in search of the culprits who produced that magnificence that you see before you there. And, well, I'm going to tell you we've already found them. We know where they are. They're just down over this hill. 2 lions here at Buffelshoek Dam. Just remember, please keep talking to us. You can use the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. You can use the YouTube chat stream. You can use the comment section. Whatever platform you're watching, you want to hear. Here are the close by.
You're back with us, folks. The sun is just slowly moving through the grass here. Let's see if we can get a hello Rex. See if we can get another position for him. We're having some difficulties with James's signal up at Buffelshoek Dam. We just got him moving through the bushes there. We're going to try to stay with him. He's moving into the block. There's a very gentle breeze coming from sort of this side here, sort of from the west, and he's kind of moving in that direction. Whether he's hungry or not is probably a good call. A young man like that is always hungry. Ask my mother. Anyone who has a young boy at home will know that as soon as he moves out, the age of 19 or 20, your food bill goes down dramatically. There he is. Absolutely beautiful. Now, those of you, if you've seen the photo I posted on Twitter yesterday of the Birmingham boy Nene black and white. You'll notice how completely camouflaged he is. Completely camouflaged he is when he's black and white. And if you can do that with your screenshots now and try and put a black and white filter on that, you'll see how it disappears. So folks, we're going to see if we can reposition and keep with this beautiful cat. And while we do so, we're going to go all the way up to the Masai Mara with Jamie, who has something interesting.
Well, it's something interesting that has camouflage that is almost as good as Hosana. Not quite, though. A black-bellied bustard who is moving through the grass plains between Serena and the escarpment, looking to see if it can catch a grasshopper, I think, by the looks of things. Oh, did you drop it or did you swallow that? I think you might have dropped that one. I'm not convinced that was a successful meal. Whoa, whoa. They are truly bizarre-looking birds, I suppose, with their long necks and their large eyes. This, of course, is a bird with one of the best bird calls in all the world, and in fact happens to be Megan's favourite bird call. We spoke a couple of days ago about our favourite sounds of the bush and our favourite bird calls. This is Megan's. And if we're really lucky, our new viewers will get to experience what a black-bellied bustard call sounds like. Now, I spoke about its camouflage. It's got a very, very clear black streak down the front of its neck and to its belly, and of course that black around its head. But when it's hiding from predators, it actually curls up so that all you can see are those mottled feathers on the back and at the top of the head. And that actually helps it remain almost completely invisible to potential predators. Come on, mister. I think he might be more concerned with catching a meal than he is with calling for us, but you never know, he might get lucky. I'll try and anticipate it properly. No, don't disappear. Just like that. He's almost completely vanished. I've taken a brave decision, by the way, and I've gone off the main road, which we've sort of been avoiding doing over the past day and a half because it is so muddy. But I think we'll be okay. I hope we will. Okay. Well, as our poor male black-bellied bustard goes wandering off in search of a female in the great wide open plains, fortunately, our male lion is much more lucky on Djuma.
Right, we have some lions over here, some very dodgy signal. They are, of course, a mating pair of lions who we've seen here for the last 2 days. Now, this lioness, Amber Eyes, is an interesting one. Not so much because she's called Amber Eyes, and she is called Amber Eyes, of course, because she has, altogether now, well done, Amber Eyes, that's correct. And she, as far as we know, is not particularly fond of this whole mating malarkey. In fact, when you watch them mate, it is almost as if it very seldom actually is consummated. Now, as far as I'm aware, when we were in the Mara, or when I was in the Mara, this lioness did have cubs, but she's obviously lost them all if she's now mating again. So this is really quite an interesting situation, and if anyone can just tell me exactly how many she had and when she had them, that would be great. At the moment they are very, very peaceful indeed. They were sitting up when we got here, and I wonder if there aren't some elephants in the bushes nearby. There certainly have been many elephants around here coming down to drink during the course of the day. Maybe further will come down. I don't think we're going to spend too long here on account of the fact that we can't move around given the signal issues we're experiencing, and so we'll sit here for maybe just another 20 minutes or so and then press on. We are, of course, on the northeastern corner of Djuma, near or at a place called Biffle's Hook Dam, which is unsurprisingly a waterhole with water in it, and a hippopotamus, and what looks like a log with some terrapins on it. Can you see that? It's that loggish thing. It's not a hippo, is it? It's not another hippo.
There, yeah.
Yes. Let's just have a quick look. Sorry, we can't move, so you're going to have to just look through the aerial, I'm afraid. I apologise. Is that a hippopotamus?
No, it's a log.
It is a log, hey. And then there's some terrapins on the right-hand side of it. There they are. Look at them enjoying their little Sunday afternoon sunbathe. I think, as far as I'm aware, I can feel the temperature is probably, it's not that hot today, probably sitting around about 85 degrees Fahrenheit or so, 29 or 30 degrees Celsius. Okay, we'll sit here for a little bit longer, see if anything comes down while we wait. While we wait for something to come down, let us go back to our male leopard Hosana and Stifofo.
Thank you, James. Yes, we're following him, and he's moving quite deliberately, definitely with the wind coming towards him. And just at our right-hand side is a very nice termite mound with a big scotia tree that he keeps peeking into, but we can't see anything in there. Maybe he's smelling an old kill or something that might have been there at one stage. But he's still on the move, and this is kind of exciting times with these cats, is when they're moving, the temperatures are nice and cool. Rexon is still with us. He's just going around onto the road, so we're going to make another mission to see if we can get ahead of him. So stay with us, folks. This is what it's all about. Following the little prints through the bush. Sometimes we have them just sitting and lying flat, and then sometimes we get them moving like this, which is always far more exciting. He's just going to cross the road because the road here doesn't seem to mean much to him as far as the boundary is concerned. But he's definitely using the wind. Isn't that wonderful? Hold on, folks. Such a beautiful animal. I mean, unless you see him next to another male, you wouldn't think he was small. He's already filling out quite nicely in the time I've been here. He still has a bit to go on the neck and the shoulders, but he's a very, very good-looking leopard. I think he's making his way back into the shade. The sun has just cleared through the clouds again. Just a very gentle breeze coming from the left of him. And what you often see cats doing is moving across the wind, not always directly into it, because directly into the wind you're only going to pick up any scent that's coming directly from above you or from upwind. But if you cut across, any movement or any smell coming from that side, he's got a much better chance of locating any smell coming from sort of that periphery. They'll cut across until something of interest, and then he'll turn into that direction, see if he can pick up on that. So folks, while we continue following the little prints, we're going to go back to Jamie, who I believe has a lovely bird.
I have several other birds, and in fact a whole load of little chicks to show you. So earlier on we had the female impala chasing a francolin away from her little baby, and I've come around the corner and startled a family of coqui francolin. And just look, this parent has just managed to gather together the remaining chicks, who went scattering off in the opposite direction away from us. So I stopped and I sat quietly and I just waited for the adult to gather them together again. Another really good example, especially on the little ones, of that mottled camouflage to help to hide them in the grass. And Adrian's doing the most amazing job of being able to keep track of them, because it is very, very difficult. And it took us probably a good 5 minutes before we found them. We spotted them by watching the movement in the grass. There we go. The concerned adult rushed forward, calling quietly. Contact calls between the chicks and the francolin. Now there's actually more similarities with that tiny baby impala that we saw and these chicks, and that's the fact that both of them have to be, well, let's say born, for the sake of it, ready to run, ready to move with the adults. So it's something known as altricial development. The babies are born altricial. No, I'm talking absolute nonsense. They are not born altricial. They are born the opposite of altricial, which is precocial. I'm sorry, that's very confusing. Precocial. In other words, they are born able to run and keep up with the adults. Not like a nesting bird, like those hummercorp that we saw earlier, or even the ground hornbills that we saw earlier, who have tiny, almost bald chicks when they hatch. These little guys are ground nesting birds. And the chicks are ready, once they hatch, to keep up with the adults, and they'll move from day one with their parents. Just like that little baby impala. Joy, you say it is a new bird for you. I am thrilled to hear it. You can add it to your bird list. For those of you that are new to these live safaris, we always encourage our viewers to keep a bird list. This, of course, is the bird that goes koki, 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 koki. A very easily recognizable sound, almost as recognizable as the call of the woodland kingfisher.
Yes, everyone, look at this. And it's a couple of them. And we've just been watching them darting down, splashing in the water, because remember that these kingfishers are not piscivores like some of the kingfishers are. They're insectivorous. So when they go down to the water, they don't have that same intention like the fishing kingfishers do. They're just literally doing a little bit of feather maintenance, like the oxpeckers were doing, but they're using water to assist them in getting rid of a lot of that excess preen oil. And they have been displaying as well. They've also one of them caught a little insect. Now, remember, there are a few that are insectivorous, and one of them is the African pygmy kingfisher, also quite insectivorous, whereas and both of them also migratory as well, whereas the giant kingfisher, the pied kingfisher, the little malachite, as well as the mangrove kingfishers, are all piscivores and residents as well. But then you get the brown hooded, who's also a resident who stays in the same place, the grey hooded as well. They're insectivorous. And then the woodland, which he migrates and is insectivorous, so you don't find them frequenting too much over water. They're more so in the forested areas. Now, Monique from London, thanks for commenting, saying that you love kingfishers. Well, I agree with you. And this little pair, it's quite interesting because they've been doing feather maintenance, but maybe we'll be lucky and they do a little bit of displaying. And they are spreading their wings a little bit as well, because they have made themselves a little bit wet now. So now they're sitting in the blazing sun and just drying out, getting rid of that excess oil. But beautiful to watch, and for me also one of those real signs of summer when you start to hear that chirr of the woodland kingfisher, coupled with well, not here in Kenya but back in South Africa when we see the first baby impala. It's normally within a day or two of the woodland kingfisher. Now, speaking of birds and beautiful birds like the woodland kingfisher, let's send you on over to James, who has got a bird's eye view to show you.
Hello everybody, here we find ourselves at Buffelshoek Dam. I'm not sure what you're looking at now, if you've got the drone shot or the goose shot. We've got the drone shot. So that is Sébastien Ramby, the last and greatest French Gabonese Air Force pilot. And well, if you want to see him in action, there he is, if you can believe it. There he is, Sunday afternoon flight he's going on. Good, excellent. And we are now going back to the drone shot. And that's Buffelshoek Dam that you're obviously looking at now. A magnificent waterhole for the animals to come and drink at, which they really enjoy. We'll give you all a wave. Hello. And now Sebastian will try and achieve a picture of the lions. While he hies his way across, we can have a look at the geese if you like. Wonderful little goose family that we have there. Very gorgeous, and Sebastian's now doing a low level under the radar flight. There's a little goose getting lost. Right, and back to the drone we go. Right, let's see if we can get a picture of those lions, which are the other side there. Just on the corner on the right, that is correct. You got anything there? You got them. Well spotted, that's them. Brilliant. Absolute genius. Thank you, Tony, for complimenting Sebastian's piloting skills. He's not bad, is he? Ain't half bad. And that is what the drone looks like, everybody, when it's flying. It's quite an intimidating alien-looking creature, isn't it? That's quite fun, isn't it, to be able to do all that? Right, from one massive cat we're going to go to a smaller one, but just a little bit taller than your garden variety domestic cat.
Just a little bit taller indeed, but so exciting to see my first serval in ages here in the Mara, and one animal that we've had very special opportunities to spend some time with. And isn't it she absolutely gorgeous? I wonder if this is the same serval that we've spent so much time with in this area. No, sorry, it's not, because that is definitely not a she. Flick of the tail, that's most definitely a male serval. So there we go. We spend a lot of time with female servals around here. This is a male serval, and the birds are going absolutely crazy at his presence. So this is a cat that looks a little bit like a miniature cheetah, but it is something that is completely different. It is, as James told you, not much bigger than your domestic house cats, but that short tail is normal for a serval. They've obviously got those massive ears, quite elongated faces, and they are exceptionally powerful jumpers. That's the way that they hunt. They launch themselves up into the air, grabbing birds and rodents, well, birds in the air and rodents as they land. And this is so exciting. Melissa, this is fantastic to hear. This is Melissa's first serval. Guess what, Melissa? It's Adrian's first serval as well. So you get to share that experience with him. I'm thrilled. I could not be happier. It just goes to show sometimes you have a bit of a slow start and it all pays off in the end. And here's the funny thing. I looked at those little Franklin earlier, and I looked at them and I looked at them and I thought, you know, if I keep driving down this road, all I'm going to do is scare them. And what if one of them gets separated permanently from the adult? So we turned all the way, we went all the way back down the road and we took a different one. Now there's some good karma for us, hey Adrian? Good karma indeed. Look at him stalking. Well, there we go. There's our plan for the remainder of the afternoon. We're going to spend it with this male. He lay down right next to us earlier. Now, Joy, you say you thought they were only active at night. It's the funny thing about cats. Yes, although even if you read the books about servals, most of them will actually tell you that they're active both during the day and at night. And I'm just going to go catch up with him now. You'll usually find they're more active on cold and cloudy days, but much like leopards, you can see them pretty much at all times of the day. Please don't let me get stuck following a serval, I'll be so sad. You can find them at all times of the day, active at all times of the day, hunting small rodents, birds. There's a lot of water. Let's find out what it's like. There we go. Where did our boy go? Have you got him there? There he is. Trotting ahead of us. Okay, stop. It's okay, boy. He's not as relaxed as the females that we've seen in this area. It's okay, mister. So we're going to give him a little bit of extra room. I thought I'd lost him a moment ago, but he was actually lying right next to the car. And then, as I reversed back to see him, he shot out. Basically from underneath our wheels. Not quite, but he was very, very close to us. Isn't he magnificent? Disappeared. Okay, let's catch up with him around the termite mound. This is not an easy area. I'm just going to watch him for a sec. I wanted Adrian to try and show you something. Adrian, can you zoom in on the grass next to us? I just want to show you something. Grass, right? Pretty innocuous. If you zoom right in, you'll actually see it's water. That is all underwater. I don't know how clearly you can see that, but that is underwater, a good few inches. So I have to be really careful here, as excited as I am to see this serval. There he goes, he's just popped up there. As excited as I am, I'm going to have to try and stick to sensible paths. Okay, well, we're going to catch up with our male serval and see where he goes and where he's off to. Let's go from one spotted cat to another and join young Hosana.
Yes, folks, well, we've been following him, and he's definitely got intention in his eyes. There's a couple male impala up ahead, and his whole body posturing has changed. You can see how low he is to the ground. They're still probably about 60 yards off. But he's slowed down, he's stopped, he's been watching them, and now he's slowly making his approach. There we go, you can just see him, he's stopped behind that bush. Look at that posture, folks. Just going to sit here and try not to disturb him anyway. It's just Rexon coming up behind us there. He's been sitting with him in the bushes. So this is awesome to be able to see the leopard stalk. Now look at that, how invisible is he from behind, folks? Can you imagine him stalking you unknowingly? It'd be quite a frightening sight. So we're just going to pull up a bit, see if we can get any of this action, but without disturbing him. He's just there, hiding in the long grass. See if we can come around him just a little bit. Hey, that's not the place. How's that, V? Is that alright? I'm just going to have to adjust the levels. I'm on a bit of a termite mound. But the impala don't know that he's here. The wind is very strong in his favor. You can see by the intention, folks, that he's looking directly at something. And he looks hungry. He's almost licking his lips in anticipation. Now, I haven't spent too much time with Hosana. VM, have you seen him kill a male impala yet?
He has, but I haven't seen him.
You've seen him with the male impala. Sir asks a question, how fast can a leopard move, or how fast can it go? And I'll just get my little trusty book out here to get the calculations right. So a leopard can go at 80 to 90 kilometers an hour. That's 50 to 56 miles an hour. But that is extremely fast. But to work out the charging speed, 22 to 24 meters per second, that's 73 to 79 feet per second. That is phenomenal, folks, but it's not over a long distance, but quite a short distance. That's why the camouflage, the stalking, has got to get into very, very close range for a very explosive dart to then be able to jump out and catch the animal. If an impala is 20, 30 yards away and the leopard hasn't got close enough, it's very difficult for the leopard to catch them. But that's why with conditions like this, the wind is swirling. Can you see the grass around his head is moving? There's so many sounds now that are being masked by that wind that this is opportunity for leopards and lions to hunt. He's just having a look. There's about 3 or 4 male impala we saw just disappear into the thicket ahead of us. So being quite a young leopard, he might not be the most patient of leopards. And it's patience that pays off in the end. he can use his camouflage, he can use the wind in his favor and get to that close range of about 15-20 yards, then explosive acceleration, and then launch onto the impala. That is what would work. But that only